My name is Wyatt Sullivan. I am a technical marketing engineer here at Itential. I'm a 25-year veteran. I only know this because for 10 years I did things like created full blackouts, multiple brownouts, got my CCIE, and when I did that, I realized I was no good at networking. So I did what every good person does that's not good at networking. I went to the vendors. And so So I've been in the vendor space ever since, another 15 years. I have worked at a lot of the major vendors. We've got Arista, Dell Force 10, Cumulus, NVIDIA. Gosh, I've been at a lot, haven't I? And then I've also been at a couple of automation startups. So I have lived and breathed the automation space for quite a while, and I know I'm pretty bad at it. That said, what I'm here today to talk about is about how I can take my network automations and how I can operationalize them. And operationalize is kind of a buzzy word, but what I'm trying to say is I want to be able to share my automations from me and myself to like my team. How do I get that beyond myself? We've been in this industry, we've been doing the automation, as Peter said a few minutes ago, we've been doing the automation stuff for 15 years, right? I've got my automations. I can do the thing. I can make it happen. But I'm not connected anywhere else, right? Like maybe I've got one close guy that can do an automation. Maybe I've got a small group that can work on the automations, but it's on their laptops. It's doing something else. But at the end of the day, my automations are not connected. And how do I know this? Because if I leave the company, within the first 2 weeks, something happens and they either quit using the scripts or something happens. And within 2 months, those automations that I created, they're no longer useful, like because the next guy's coming in and he's creating his own automations. So it's kind of where we're at today. So how do I get from this mindset of me focused, right, to a team focused, we? Like it's a first step that I need to get to. So for you guys today, I'm going to put on at least two hats. My first hat is going to be a network engineer hat. And that's pretty easy for me because that's what I am. It's in my blood. The second one is also pretty straightforward, and it's going to be my operations hat. I'm going to put on a NOC hat or SOC hat or something like that. So with the network engineer hat on, guys, I'm a gray beard. I've been around. Tickle, expect. Look, I can do it. My Perl, Python, Ansible, Chef Puppet. I've tried them all. I've used half of them, and I'm still using half of them today. Sed, awk, and grep. I can do that with the best of them, right? But this whole concept of consumer versus producer, like, I get it, but it's not where I'm at. I'm knee deep in operational crap, right? Like, I'm having to deal with, I write my scripts and automations at the nighttime or on the weekends because during the daytime, I'm sitting here either troubleshooting some esoteric bug with some vendor, I won't say, or I am dealing with like escalation tickets, right? So my full-time job is not automation. I want to share my automations because I don't want to be up at 3 a.m. I'm also lazy. I don't want to redo the same crap and over again. So, but to do that, I now have to be a sysadmin. I have to be an IT support for some guy's laptop because to run these scripts, it has to be done there. Or I'm RBAC. I'm literally telling the junior NOC guy named Bob, no, I'm not going to let you run that script because if you typo it, you're going to take down the entire freaking network. How do I know? I did it, but don't say anything, right? So, okay, where does that leave me? This is what I want my job to be. I want to write code, I want to commit code, I want to publish code, and I want to do the thing. Some level of that, right? This makes me sound really smart, but really it's copy something from Google. It's, change something on it. It's test it to see if it works, pray to see if it works. And then when it finally does work, I tell everyone how great I am and how I did the thing. But this is reality. I am over here writing the script, I commit the code, I publish the code, and then I have to share it. I have to go deal with some guy's laptop. I have to deal with installing some virtual environments on some guy's laptop. He doesn't even know what virtual environments are. To be real honest, I keep forgetting because every time I use them, I forget them and have to relearn them myself again. But I still have to go tell Bob how to do it. Bob only uses the scripts every 2 weeks or 2 months, right? So he forgets how to do it. So Bob comes back to me and asks me how to do it, and I'm freaking troubleshooting with him remotely over a laptop because I don't want to come in and talk to Bob. He's not a fun guy to hang out with. Some people like him, I'm sure. It's fine. But at the end of the day, I get sick of Bob. I'm sorry, if your name's Bob, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Okay. My bad. I end up having to, I end up having the guy just send me an email because at the end of the day, I can do the script quicker myself. It's going to take me 5 minutes and I can circumvent this whole crap that I have to go through, this whole process I have to go through. I don't get to scale operationally and I really don't get to grow my team because I'm stuck in operational hell. I don't want to deal with the operational bull. So we have ways to solve that, right? Okay, well, let's talk about the ways we have to solve that. Let's say we're using Ansible, we might have Tower. Let's say we're using Terraform, OpenTofu, right? We can use Terraform Enterprise. Let's say we're using Python, we'll get to that. If we have Terraform, we have Python, or we have Ansible, we can go buy an expensive platform, but now I have to go operationalize it. I'm back to sysadminning. Okay, that's fine. But now I'm also locked into the one application, one tool. It's a great tool, but operationalizing it and sharing it with everyone else becomes its own problem. Now I need to do that again. Now I need to do it again. Can you imagine us having an operational tool for Tickle? And they did have professional tools for Tickle. You would still have it because we're still running scripts. If I had to do that, my cost and my complexity keeps growing as I'm going to the next and next and next tooling set. I can't do that. And my company's not going to let me do that. Okay, let's look at Python, right? Like the other way to do it is OSS, open source, right? And that's great. I love open source. We should all be doing open source. But the only guys that can do that are the Moogle books of the world, right? Like these guys have 100 developers designed to build a tool, to build a framework, to build applications. They do it well. I wish they would tell us all how they do it. They pretend. But at the end of the day, I still have no cost, but the complexity is through the roof. It's impossible for the rest of us to do it like that. So, Itential as an answer. Introducing Itential Automation Service. Ta-da! No. This is a brand new product that we're releasing. It is creating a new way to deliver applications. What it is, let's look from the NetDevOps side. We can do any framework, any script. We can do these real-time Git pulls. And the idea there is like, I write the code, I commit the code, I publish the code. I'm done. I don't care who's running, all of you guys can run the script. It is automatically pushed to you guys. I'm not going to have to go update your scripts. It is automatic, real time. Dynamic execution, this is the idea of virtual environments for everything, right? Like, let's be able to, in real time, create the environment based on the requirements I need. And once I have those requirements, run the application, get rid of the virtual environment for the next time it runs. Service-based automations, it's easier seeing is believing. But the idea here is that let's create a list of all our automations, and let's give that list to the operations team. Let's give that list to the other guys that don't know automations, but they want to run this list. Service catalog kind of concept, right? And then flexible service definitions. This is an important one because you can't provide a service catalog without having a specific set of input and input validation. I can't let Bob, the junior engineer, Bob, I'm sorry, I can't let you go and put some random input and screw up my scripts or screw up the network because you put in the word cat instead of an IP address. I guess that would be fine if it were IPv6, but otherwise I can't let you do that.
No.
Dead beef. Okay, let's look from the operator's view, right? So we've got the NetDevOps, and now let's go to the operator's view. And the operators, we need RBAC. We have a difference level of junior to mid to senior. We also may have a difference between security, networking, and cloud ops, right? Like they may have different roles and responsibilities, so you need RBAC. API-driven integration. This is the idea that someone can run in hardcore mode. They can, if they want to write their own scripts against my automation, they can do that. And they can run it as long as they have the proper RBAC. Now, we still have story mode or easy mode, right? I can still go to the GUI, and that's what I'll show you today. I can go to a GUI, I can run the scripts, I can do the automations that I need to do. Service-based structure, same concept on both sides, except instead of from the NetDevOps side, where I'm creating the service, I'm creating the catalogs, from this side, I'm running the different catalogs. I'm looking at the scripts, I'm seeing the input I need, and I'm hitting run. And then self-service access. How many of you guys still use full-service gas stations? Show hands, hands. Do they really have them?
Sorry?
Do they really still have them?
They
Have
do.
you ever been to New Jersey?
Yeah.
New Jersey, they're required.
Okay.
They're in Oregon.
Jersey guys might not like this. Okay. But for the rest of us, I don't want to have to go to, I don't want to be handheld by the NetDev guy every time I run a script. Look, Bob, I understand you, right? Like, I don't remember how to do Ansible every time. I have to go look it up and I have to go figure it out every time I do it because I don't do it enough. But I can run an automation. Don't hold my hand. I can put the input in. You go do your thing. So that's the idea there. Okay. I'm talking a lot. I'll slow down and see if there's questions. So let's talk about it. Let's dive a little bit deeper into it, and let's focus on it. I want to write the code. I want to commit the code. I want to publish the code. What happens after that now? That all goes into a Git repository. The only other thing I have to do as a network engineer is I go into an Itential gateway cluster, and I create the service. We'll go through that. Command line to run to create the service. We create a service, and it exposes that service to the Itential cloud. The gateway cluster is the on-prem. The Itential cloud's in the cloud. Your on-prem gateways are wherever they need to be able to run the services. So data center might have one gateway, your cloud might have another gateway, right? And once you expose the services in the cloud, all the operations teams, whoever you want to have access, logs in, they run the automation service, it then executes the service on the gateway, and then from the gateway, it does its thing, reports back all the information back to the user. Straightforward, easy. All right, let's go back to our use case. I don't remember what he said. It was blah, 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 blah. All I remember is that I need to connect this thing, and it needs to have a database server to a web server. He had a great name for it. I forget what it was, but it was something, right? So as the network engineer, as the operations team, I need to automate this. So I've got a slew of things I've got to do. Let's look at what the demo is going to look like and kind of the architecture. You saw this overall. Let's start at the bottom, which is I'm going to have firewalls, I'm going to have routers, and then I'm going to have AWS in this scenario, okay? I'm going to have 3 different gateways. These gateways are going to be, I'm going to have a networking gateway. My networking team accesses it. I have a security gateway. My security team sets up their scripts and automations on that gateway. And I'm going to have a cloud gateway. You may separate these all. Your team may be all together. It doesn't matter. You might have things for location. Your gateways don't matter, but they allow you to separate your services. In fact, as the network guy, we're going to spend our time on the network gateway, okay? And then we're going to expose those services back up to Itential Cloud, where the operations teams can then now go run a service, execute it against the environment, get the results back, and they're done. Okay? Demo time. I'm back to the, I want to write code, I want to commit code, I want to publish code, right? Like, that's the theory. So let's start with that. I'm writing some code. Some of you may recognize this, it's Ansible. Some of you may recognize this, it's Python, right? I'm proud of this Python script. I didn't write it, actually, Dan wrote it. But I'm still proud of it because it's really freaking cool.
Yeah, that guy.
It will automatically use AWS APIs, it'll go out, it'll connect, it will do the thing and get things done. In 2 days after this, I'm going to totally forget what this does and how it works because that's the way it is, right? This Ansible script, I'm going to totally forget what it does in the next 2 days or 3 days. This is configuring a banner. I'm going to forget it. So, but if I can create it as an automation, if I can create it as a service, then I don't have to remember what it all does. I can just go and run it. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write the script.
You're going to fix that damn typo.
Uh-oh. Oh, okay. Actually, let's do that.
Just because it's annoying, you know.
Remember your
That
audience.
was intentional so he could fix it later.
All right. Let's say I was that smart. All right. Let's like where you're going with this. All right, so if I SSH to a switch, the one switch we're supposed to do, I've got this banner that's supposed to do a thing, and damn it, you're right. It's not got the, it's messed up. Okay, messed up. So let me go real quick and we're doing this. Okay, so the idea, and we'll work on this. The idea is that I write my code, commit my code, publish my code, right? I don't have to do anything after that. So let me fix it slightly later, but let me
Sure.
do that, okay? And the idea will be, I'm gonna already operationalize this with a typo, with the bug. We're gonna do it, we're gonna be messed up. Yeah. And then theoretically, I'm going to go commit my code and publish the code, and it's operationally gonna get fixed everywhere else, okay? This may actually be a better demo.
Nice thing.
Okay, thank you. It's in my title. Technical marketing engineer. Doesn't mean I can do anything. Can't do marketing, can't do technical, can't do engineering. I can do them all poorly. Okay, so and even that doesn't work right now. Okay, so let's go back to what we were doing, and then we will get to that hopefully. So I do this, I write a buggy code, but it works, but it's buggy. The next thing I need to do is I need to publish it or commit it, and I'm not going to walk through that process. But the idea here is that I have a GitHub, I have a GitLab, I have a Git something or other that I put it to. And this is fantastic for me as a network engineer because I really don't normally do this, but I'm going to start doing this, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start publishing it to a Git repository. So now I have my code, I wrote it, and I've committed it to the repository. The only thing I need to do to operationalize this now is to actually just go and create the service in the Itential gateway cluster, okay? So from the top, we've got a command line, iagctl. We'll call it iagctl or iagctl. I don't know. I haven't figured out a good name for it yet. It's not like kubectl. Like that's a cute name, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go there and try to do that. So let's SSH to our networking gateway. If I do iagctl get services, I can type get services. This is a server running, and what it's doing is I've got a whole list of services available already. I've created these, I've installed these, I've set these up, and most of them work. Don't think the NFT demo one does, but that's fine. What we are going to do now is we're going to look at what we've got available. So I do iagctl-help. I need to spell help right, but fair enough. I've got a certain set of actions. I can create, I can delete, I can get, I can run, and then I can do a couple of other small things. The idea here is I'm going to create resources. If I want to test them, I can run the resources, and then I can need to get or describe something or other. So let's do a create, tab completion for the win. So let's do a service, and let's see what service is. Right now I can do an Ansible Playbook, Python, OpenTofu. So let's look at Ansible since that's what we're talking about. Let's do a help on it. So fantastic help. This is all from the command line. You guys can do this yourself. Really easy and straightforward. If you're familiar with Ansible, this is going to be brain dead science for you. It is, I create a service and I've got a certain set of meta information I've got to get. I'm going to need to know the inventory. I'm going to need to know the playbook if there's multiple playbooks. If there's any extra variable inputs I need to know, that type of thing gets there. And this is how I'm going to set up my service. I'm going to create the service, and every time this service runs, whatever I've named it, it's going to do these specific things. If you're more familiar with Python, let's look at Python. Python has a different set of metadata because it's slightly different, right? I'm going to have maybe a working directory, I'm going to have a file name, and I'm going to have some environmental variables maybe, and then some variables that I need. Pretty straightforward. The other thing I want to point out is the decorator. And the decorator is a cool name for input validation and inputs. So now when I create my service, this Python script may have a couple of variables that I need it to have. Let's say I'm doing a Python script that I don't know updates a firewall. Well, I'm going to need to know a source, a destination. I'm going to need to know a service gateway. I'm going to need to know a port and things like that. Well, I can create a decorator that says, hey, here's that information that I need. I have that. Let's edit this decorator right here. So this decorator right here is just in YAML format. You don't have to do it in YAML format. If you don't like YAML, this isn't a religious conversation. We can do it in other things. But it's pretty easy for me to read, so I went this route. I've got these different variables. I've got a description. I've got an operation variable, and this is going to be an enum of add, delete, or list. So whenever the user goes in, he's only got 3 options. I'm telling him the options he has when he does the operation, when he puts it in. If he needs to put in a port, well, it should be limited from 1 to 65,535, right? So if he tries to put in 65,536, it's going to yell at him and things like that. Prototype, TCP, UDP. So I'm creating this decorator for my service so that I'm creating guidelines and rails around the input for the user. All right. So let's look at the banner again. So if I do a get services, I don't have the banner listed there. Great, fantastic, demo's working. If I look at the banner YAML file I've created, I can do this all from the command line. Again, I've created a YAML file for simplicity's sake for me. I can import this and to create the service. So let's do db import, and let's do banner nfd.yaml. Okay, it's going to import that YAML file, and it's going to say, I'm adding a service called Cisco Auto Update Banner. And oh, it skipped the decorator because I already had the decorator. I didn't delete that. So added 1 and skipped 1. Now if I do an IAGCTL get services, I've got this Cisco Auto Update Banner script, right? And it's now created as a service. I can go run it, and it runs, it is a Ansible Playbook of Cisco Auto Update, thank you, tab complete, banner. I didn't put in any variables because it's optional. If I don't put it in a description in my playbook, it's got a default variable. So now this is a 10 to 15 second script. It is pulling down the script from the actual GitHub repository. It's then creating in a virtual environment. It's now running the script in the environment, and then it's going to give the output. And then if I need to run it again, it's going to check GitHub. It's going to see if that's made any changes. Back to your thing. And if it's made changes, then it will pull it out again. If it hasn't made changes, it'll just run it again. Okay, that's done a thing. Let's see if it actually did something. This is Moneymaker. What's the time? Yeah, look, 3:19. So I've updated my banner. It had some general details. I still haven't fixed the bug, but it updated the banner on the Cisco switch. Fantastic. Okay. I know you wanted to fix it. I'm sorry. We're going to do it in a minute, I promise. Okay, so now let's go look at it from the view of Itential Cloud. Let's see what the operation people see, okay? So back to the script, GitHub repository. I did the thing. I published the thing. I want it to work. I went to my gateway cluster. I created the service. I exposed the services to the Itential Cloud. And now the users have access to Itential Cloud where they can run the services. Okay, let's see. Operations team. Let's see if I have to log in. Sure do. So now this is going to be an operator's view. They're not going to log in to the gateway. They're going to log in here, use a super secret password. And this is the view they're going to get. They're going to get the view of, I need to run some automations. Here are my list of frequent automations. Here's the automations I have scheduled, some automations I might have running. They can go and they can see what gateways are connected. I've got a cloud gateway, I've got a security gateway, and oh, the networking gateway that we were just on, it's connected. They've got a list of automations. Here are the automations they have access to. Again, RBAC, I can prevent some people from having access. I can have others have access. Let's do that real quick, actually. Let's log in as a security user real quick. Okay, this is the same instance now, but with security user. He has a list of automations, but all he has access to are the security gateway automations. He's got 4 automations. Me, on the other hand, I'm running as admin. I have all the automations. And specifically, I've got Cisco Auto Update Banner that we just created. That is available now to run. So I can click on it, or I can go to my operations page and I can say, I want to run, and we want to run that Auto Update Banner. We're going to click Go. Now, here's where it gets cool. This is the decorator and the input validation. The script has the input. I've created a decorator around it, and I've said, hey, I need to get this information from the user. So let's put some information in here. Bob is great, okay? Because Bob is great. Can I use exclamation? So now we're going to run this, and it's running. As the operations guy, I don't know what's going on. I don't care. I don't want to deal with Ansible. I do want to see the output, right? So it should be running right now, or it should be completed. There it goes, it completed. So I do want to see the output. Sure enough, I've got all sorts of output. I, by the way, printed all the facts. I'm not very good with Ansible, so yes, I know it's the whole config. Let's pretend that it didn't do the whole config. But I did the run the thing, so let's see if it actually works. We go back to our Cisco gateway, we SSH to log in, and now our banner says Bob is great, right? The operations guy did not use SSH. He did not log into the switch. It's what we all want in life, right? And he was able to make a change without killing the network. Okay, let's do it. All right. All right, let's see here. Okay, so this right here is my Git repository. So over here, these are all my things. It is the config banner that's messed up with the typos. So we will go here, we'll edit config banner. Hopefully I have time for all this. Can we make it another typo? Last update, I'm sorry, that'd just be mean, wouldn't it? I really want to put like Bob is great here. We're gonna do that. I really feel bad for picking on Bob so much. Okay.
Alice and I are used to it.
Okay.
All those key exchanges.
Right.
That really took a few milliseconds in my head to get, but I got it. Okay. And now we need to do all the git commit stuff. So let's see here if I have it. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to git add, I'm going to git commit, I'm going to git push, right? This is what I'm going to do to make the change. I make the change, I do the thing, I go on with my day and tell the operations team, y'all have fun. All right. So now I go to the operations team, say operations, it's fixed. Oh yeah, great. I don't know what you did, whatever. He's going to run this command again. He's going to put something else, which is, we're going to be confident, we fixed the bug. You know, this real-time stuff really sketchy. Okay, we're running it. It's about a 10-second script. It actually has to pull it down so it'll run slower the first time. And then hopefully we updated it. It did the thing. Okay, great. We did it.
Hey.
We fixed the bug. Okay. So you guys can see that, right? Which is I can now separate my work from the operations work. They don't have to log in. That was, thank you.
Now a standard part of the demo.
Yeah.
Typos just get under my skin.
They do get everyone, don't they? Okay. So
I was going to say this. I mean, thank you for doing the demo, because I was having a little bit of trouble wrapping my head around
yes.
what you're talking about until we did this. But now I see it allows you to take the people who know how to do the automation and let them do what they do and enable the operations team to utilize those tools without them having to learn how to do the automation or even really understand it. They just have a tool that they can access via a web browser, a web portal, part of their standard tool set, and they know, hey, I have to run
They have
this
the correct
job type.
railguards in place. Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
And this is a lot smoother than the shared Linux VM with all the scripts on it that we sent off to with detailed instructions on what.
Right, and I was getting ready to give them a hard time here. Well, why would you just have a shared Linux VM? You just have your dev environment on there, and that's where you do it. But I get it now. I get it.
Yep.
I've got 2 enhancement requests.
That's actually a very good sign.
You know, my product manager is here.
No, I'm thinking, suppose the user wants to provide feedback, or request an enhancement. Hey, I also need to do this, and Did you add that?
No, it makes sense, right? Like now we need a
Chain of
feedback.
workflow, like a multi-step workflow or something.
From the knockback to the coder.
Right.
Yeah, we need a feedback way, right? And I mean, the cheater answer is use GitHub to put a fix. But yes, I get what you're saying, right? Like
User,
We're not going to have the knock.
as opposed to get, what was the command? Get the hashtag help.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm completely derailed, but oh, that's right.
We succeeded.
My boss wanted had a feature, right? He wanted to do a thing that was exciting for him. He wanted to do a secure access cross connect. Whatever. What he wants is he wants me to add a route. He wants me to add a route to AWS. He wants me to add a route, actually a connection to AWS. He wants me to add a route to Cisco, and he wants me to update the security policy. Those are the three things he really wants at the end of the day. Whatever he wants to call it, it's really me doing all the work. Great. So what I'm going to do as the operations team is I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, yep, here's what I need to do. I need to do a AWS connection add. By the way, you have to have a source of truth, right? You have to know where everything is. My favorite source of truth as a demoer is autofill. Okay. I'm sure that's not the first time you've heard that, right?
Not put that way, no.
Okay. So there. Now I've run a thing. I don't know what it actually did in the background, but the cloud ops gave it to me, and let's make sure. Great. Okay. I'm now provisioning this thing, which was I had to actually provision a connection in AWS. Great. Step one done. Now let's go and let's do the next thing, which is create a route on my Cisco. So I got to do a route insert. Okay. This one we'll call. Oh, actually, this one I can validate it actually is doing something. Let's SSH real quick here. Bob, you are great. You and Alice are great people. Itential. I'm not supposed to say the password out loud like that, am I? Okay.
A password.
Yeah.
I always see here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is going to add a static route. I've got 3 routes right now. Let's move this over here because I don't need to look at all that. So it's got 3 routes now. It's not going to have the route I want. So we're going to add a route. Let's insert it via IAS. Let's do this. It really is a good source of truth. And then let's do the next hop doing this. All right, so now it's running the thing. It's doing it. If you're interested, this is an Ansible playbook that's being run. Should take about 10 seconds to do. It's doing the route insert as needed. And then once it gets done, it will show finished. Great. Yep, sure enough, it says finished. We go over here, we do a show run pipe with include IP route, and lo and behold, it has now inserted the route. Again, operations guy didn't log into the SSH, he didn't log in, he just had operational freedom to do what he wanted when he wanted. Fantastic. And then the last thing I have to do, and I actually like showing this one because it is a more complex, it's a more complex set of input validation, is I've got to add the security rule, right? The ones that are red, I've deemed required. Description, it's not required, we'll put it in. The port, let's try to put in a port number that it doesn't like and it's going to yell at me and say, nope, you have to be at a specific port number, okay? Great. Prefix, sure. Protocol, remember the enum I'd set up? It's going to pop down a list now of what my available options are. All right, and now my SG, my gateway. Let's run the thing. Let's go make sure it worked. Did that one run fastly? Ooh, that one was fast. Okay.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, Denise Donahue.
Hi, Denise.
All right, so are there tests as you're doing this to see, okay, is this a valid IP address? Is this a valid route to put in?
So we do not today have the validation of like specifically, is this an IP address? Are those validations available and possible? Absolutely. Are we going to get there? Good question, Peter.
So right now what we're looking at is we're actually looking at the automation aspect of this. When we get talking to the orchestration, which is actually the demo coming up, that's where we would put a lot of those pre and post validation things in. So the automation is really focusing on the change. And then when we orchestrate that, that's when we want to start to put those validations in. So you'll see when we get toward the orchestration part of our technology stack, we actually have the ability to do that and actually run a whole slew of pre-checks on the network, pre-checks on the data, perform the change, and then perform all the post-checks afterwards to make sure it's all working.
Now, maybe you're about to show us this, but what I saw here was you had a 3-step process to get to service this
Do this
ticket.
Yep.
And you had to go into the automation tab and select each one of those and run them.
Mhm.
Is there a part where you build a little building block, wizard that someone has to run, and now
How
they?
much are we paying?
Can I replay what I just said about the orchestration layer? Can we just play that back? Hold for the orchestration.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely, and you're right. That's exactly what we want to get to, and we will get to that. Okay, for my piece, I'm done. I've done the thing. My guy called it a product, but really it's me doing all the work, right? So that's fine. He can sell me as the product cross-connect guy. This was about a no-brainer for me, right? This is the idea of how do I move from me to we, right? This is a we orchestrated type of team thing. This is now how we as a team can work together. I don't know all of your automations. You don't know all of my automations, but together we can share them, put them together, and now we can grow the team and grow as we move together. What do we do? Okay, so we put together a script. We published it, right? Write, commit, publish. Then
one other, when you get that list initially, you have a way to dig in at some point and have fuller descriptions for people on this is the purpose of this script, these are the input values you're going to need, or a link to instructions on why you run this script, so that it's not
you're
just a
asking
list of
for
names.
more than we have, but less than we don't have. So yes, we have some of that, right? We've got the name, we've got the description, we've got where it's from, and all the automation properties to go with it. This comes from the descriptor information. Now, you're also asking for more. Can I put in data? Can I put in a link? Can I put in other stuff? Don't have that today. That's a great feature request. And I think we'll get to that soon, to be honest. Okay, so we took the script, we created it, we published it. And now we're moving on. We're done with it. I'm happy. Now we'll move on, and I'll end the demo. The one last thing I want to talk about, I don't know why they asked me to talk about this, but it's price.
It's free.
It's free. Got everything needed. As the network engineer, I don't really want to focus on the price itself. But what I really do want to focus on is the blockers that price become, and how we're kind of doing something different. Typically, it's a node-based model where I've got specific nodes and 1,000 nodes, and I have to deploy a new tool. I'm going to have to go deploy 1,000 nodes, but I'm not using 1,000 nodes, and I'm probably only using 3 or 4 scripts at the very beginning, right? So what we're doing is slightly different. We're doing a consumption-based model. And what that is it now becomes how useful my scripts are. And when they're useful, the value becomes easy to justify, right? Like, I might have 1,000 devices out there, but I have 1 script. No one's using it. Well, then I shouldn't be paying for it, right? But as I grow and as I scale and as my automations become useful, now that value is something that I can justify. We're using this all the time, boss. If I'm having to deploy 1,000 nodes immediately, I'm having to go to 14 levels of executives to get their buy-in. With this, I don't. This is easily my first level manager can write the check, get started, and they can see the value before I have to start scaling. So with that, seeing is believing. Don't take my word for it. Go try it. Itential.com/whatever.
Question.
Yeah.
So the parameter for consumption is minutes per month of automation runs, right?
Yes.
So, okay, is that it? Okay.
What do you mean by that? Is that it? There's a real small monthly fee, but other than that, it's minutes per month or minutes per automation run. Yes.
So $750 a month gets me a certain number of minutes.
Yep, 120 minutes.
Okay.
And then that doesn't count my dev work. My dev work's all free. So anything I do on the command line, free. Any scripts I make, I build, I put in, free. It's just when my automation team starts using it and there's value, do I then start paying for it?
How do you guys know that?
It's a cloud-based product. So we have it.
Okay.
Yeah, that part's cloud-based.
Yep.
The only thing I'll say is I like this pricing model, except for kind of taking the counterpoint, the unpredictability, shall we say, of trying to budget for this. And that's something that you know, in my recent role I had to do a lot of, was actually budgeting for the, you know, for annual and everything like that, and trying to figure out, okay, how much is this product here, and there are a couple others that do similar things, you know, pricing models.
I'll give you the engineer answer. I know he really wants to give a good one, but let me give an engineer answer real
Sure.
quick. If my boss says it's too useful, I'll turn off some scripts.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just to expand on the point, and Wyatt touched on it, and I think it's, I don't want to overgloss on it, it's really a super important point, is that the only time you're getting charged for minutes is actually when you're using it through the SaaS-based product. As you're working through the development and the testing, you're starting to get used to it. If you never run that in production, you're never charged a minute for it. So you're already getting a sense, you can actually set your own baseline.
We could benchmark.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's the whole point. And because it's running on Gateway, which is an on-prem product, you're in control of the resources. So it's not like, oh, if I had more RAM, it would run fast. We don't get into any of that because you're running it on your own hardware in your own infrastructure. So that's kind of how we tried to strike that balance.
Right. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, so in scenarios where you run into that cost ramp before, you feel like you could monitor and see when it was going to cross a point, or did it just overwhelm you?
We did trending. There's a
Yeah.
there's a logging company I won't mention that has pricing that way, and it was a little bit
cloud service.
it was a little problematic at times. But yeah, it's fine because, you know, of course everybody wants to log everything, so we'll just start adding stuff to the system, and you know.
Yep, and then it balloons
Yeah.
out of control.
Yeah.
And so whether you
Yeah.
had to use a separate logging service or there was a way to trend and watch consumption, I mean, I'm sure you probably start with the Nagware model, right? You go over the 120 minutes and you get error message. Oh, actually, I shouldn't say that because I'm not sure that's what you do. But yeah, I mean, it's great. It's a sea change in how to pay for stuff like this. But it's also going to trip the radar of, you know, everybody's worried about cloud costs going out of control.
So I'll throw. You're absolutely right. I'm not discounting the point. No question about it. But I'll put the reciprocal out there, and that is in a number of scenarios where I've talked with various folks about consumption versus, you know, because the prevalent pricing model today is per node, right? And so the real challenge becomes is, you know, customers don't want to have to pay for a recurring node license every single month for a device they may only touch 4 times a year.
Sure.
Right. So this, you know, it's trying to strike that right balance, you know, between the two. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish with, you know, putting this consumption-based pricing together.
Is there a way to actually track that consumption? Is there a way within the tool?
So I'll let you.
So like,
Except-
sorry, just
I mean-
to clarify the question, can you see when it's going to tip over that 120 minutes? Or would that be through an external monitoring tool or something?
Yeah, so we've got the data and we're working on building safeguards into the cloud product itself so that you'll be able to do that, just that. It's not there today, but it is very quickly a fast follow-on feature that's going to come to the cloud product very soon, so that you'll actually be able to control that and see that, you know, as you go forward. The data's all there. You can hit it from the API, but we do need to expose it to the cloud platform so it's visually available to you.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
The other thing I'll address about this is it's slightly different from the logging product, because the logging product is very indirectly tied to the utility of it. It's there, but you can't directly tie it. This is so directly tied to the utility that it's black and white. It's like, hey, we had this one application that was run, this one service that was run for 4,000 minutes. Was it useful? If it's not, let's remove it, right? Like, it's so directly tied that it's a no brainer for the engineer to have a conversation with the guy with the purse.
What if Bob just sucks as an automation development engineer and just spends his 4,000 minutes testing his one application that doesn't really work?
Well, testing doesn't count. So
Well,
okay.
well, it does
That
if
part-
Bob ran it from the cloud instead of from the local node because he wasn't paying attention to which one he logged into.
That's when you got to get a new Bob.
yeah,